Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. I'm a licensed cognitive behavior therapist, that's a CBT therapist, and a licensed mental health counselor. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the contents in this channel. Today I'd like to talk about the interview with Vicky Ward and Ava Wood. Vicky Ward and James Patterson are the authors and investigation journalist, reporter of The American Tragedy. That's what the book is called. Ava Wood is the girl who lives opposite 1122 King Road. She's friends with Zana. She went to the same sorority as KAYLEE G. She got to be good friends with Emily, DM, BF, and everyone in 1122 King Road because of Zana. I found it really interesting what she had to say about why Ann Taylor subpoenaed her as a witness. This is under fair use purpose.
I mean, you obviously must have got straight onto the phone with, your friend group who's all part of this close circle. I mean, I know of the 4 victims, KAYLEE was probably the one you knew the best. Is that fair to say? Because you're an AFE, she was an AFE.
It's a toss-up. I became so close with Xana. She was my rock, and that's how I became so close with Emily. So, I mean, I loved everybody in each different way, but yes, KAYLEE was my sorority sister. I did live with her in the sorority house for 2 years, so we did get to know each other on a different level. But then once we moved out into our own apartments, I lived across the street from Xana, so I kind of gained a different relationship with Xana because I was over there 24 hours of the day. I would go over there in the morning and come home at night. So at times I felt like I was an honorary Pi-Phi, an honorary roommate who was always over at Xana's house. So it's a toss-up between, who was I closer with, but I loved them all individually in different ways, for sure.
So I found this to be interesting. Ava was in the same sorority as KAYLEE for 2 years. KAYLEE lived with her sorority sisters. I wonder, when did she move to 1122 King Road? She must have been barely living there for 2-3 months before this actually happened. So I wonder if KAYLEE was the main target. And I don't know why, I just got this feeling that Ava Wood isn't coming out completely with the facts when it comes to KAYLEE. I believe this had something to do with KAYLEE mainly. Maddie, Emily, Zana, Dylan all went to the Pi, the same sorority. So KAYLEE, Ava Wood, and Peyton, I believe, were all in the same sororities. Could this have been something to do with sororities and fraternities? I personally believe the fraternities were always involved. But there were a lot of sorority sisters at the grub truck, if you remember. So were the sororities working together with the fraternities? This is all Greek lifestyle. That's why I believe that these unalivings were really personal. A lot of revenge, jealousy, that's what I sense. Crime of passion, possibly rugs, different things, different motives and different targets.
Idaho taped off. This right here is where officers found 4 bodies yesterday. We now know the names of those 4 students. They were 20-year-old Ethan Chapin from Conway, Washington, 21-year-old Madison Mogan from Coeur d'Alene, 21-year-old KAYLEE from Rathdrum, Idaho, and 20-year-old Dana Kernodle from Avondale, Arizona, and they were all University of Idaho students. Here's a breakdown of the timeline from what we know so far. Around 1 p.m., we heard reports of a homicide investigation near the college campus. An hour later, the school put out an alert on social media. It said Moscow PD is investigating a homicide on King Road. They asked the community to stay away from the area and shelter in place as a precaution. Around 3 in the afternoon, Krem 2 arrived in Moscow. Neighbors said most people living in this area are a part of U of I Greek life or are students. At around 5 in the evening, the Moscow Police Department confirmed they had found 4 people dead, but it wasn't until late last night that they confirmed those victims were students. The university also said Moscow police do not think there's any active threat at the moment as they continue their investigation. Police responded to King Road for a call about an unconscious person Sunday afternoon. When police arrived, they found the 4 deceased students inside the home. This morning, the city of Moscow and University of Idaho identified all 4 U of I students. Fresh Chapin of Conway, Washington, was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity. Zana Kernodle, a junior from Post Falls, was a member of the Pi Beta Phi sorority. Madison Mogan was a senior from Coeur d'Alene, and KAYLEE Gonsalves was a senior from Rathdrum.
This is a pretty traumatic situation for our campus community.
Dean of Students Blaine Eccles says news of the suspected homicide shocked the Vandal community.
This is rocking their world. Many of them come from small communities where things like this happen.
I mean, I know of the 4 victims, you know, KAYLEE was probably the one you knew the best. Is that fair to say? Because, you know, you're an AV, she was an AV.
It's a toss-up. I became so close with Xana. She was my rock, and that's how I became so close with Emily. So, I mean, I loved everybody in each different way, but yes, KAYLEE was my sorority sister. I did live with her in the sorority house for 2 years, so we did get to know each other on a different level. But then once we moved out into our own apartments, I lived across the street from Xana, so I kind of gained a different relationship with Xana because I was over there 24 hours of the day. I would go over there in the morning and come home at night. So at times I felt like I was an honorary Pi Phi, an honorary roommate who was always over at Xana's house. So it's a toss-up between, you know, who was I closer with, but I loved them all individually in different ways.
Okay, I find this interesting. The way I understood is Ava Wood is trying to say that she was closer to Xana, although she lived with KAYLEE in the same sorority for 2 years. Now, 2 years is a long time, but it seems like she was more closer to Xana, and she mentioned that she felt like she was one of the Pi Beta. So that is majority of the girls who live in the house belong to that sorority. Bethany Funk, DM, Xana, Maddie, that's 4. Then you have Jody and you have Emily. So Everwood used to chill with the Pi Beta girls. I wonder if there was any tensions that was going on with KAYLEE's sororities. They were having some problems of money issues and requesting KAYLEE allegedly to pay more than she was supposed to pay, or pay for the COVID epidemic times when she wasn't even living there. I wonder if Everwood could have been involved in that beef. She must have seen how it went down. So, okay, KAYLEE moved from her sorority and she apologized for the noise. What I was going to say is basically this girl, Everwood, belonged to the same sorority as KAYLEE. But yet again, I get that impression that she was just very close to Zana. KAYLEE was invited to come over that weekend as DMS +1. Why does Everwood look so concerned every time I see her? This is not the first interview she's done. She's been in the Amazon Prime, and she's been in the first ABC interview on this case. She was with the other Eva. There are two Evas. The other Eva is the Eva who's very close to KAYLEE, the tall, blonde girl who spoke at the memorial. Now, what is interesting is Everwood said she would be there from when she gets up to nighttime when she needs to go home and go to bed. And she said that she does it every day. So she would have known exactly what was going on in the house. Example, if they were selling rugs, if Emma Bailey and Demetrius was around, if there were fights, if there was a fight club, allegedly, if there was anything going on, this is the young woman who would have known everything. Her and Emily. And since she was chilling in that house each and every day, she would know the surviving roommates and all 4 victims well. And I guess her sorority, which is KAYLEE's sorority, had an issue with KAYLEE. How far did the issue go, I wonder? And Eva seems to be always talking about Zana, never about KAYLEE. I find that strange. Because she's more KAYLEE's age. KAYLEE's her sorority sister. Why would you be hanging around with Zana, who's a junior? And she said at the Amazon Prime one night in Idaho on the livings, she said that the first day she moved to the house, she put on her location and she found out that Zana lived right opposite her, and she went and introduced herself to Zana and said, "I'm your neighbor." So I wonder how these sororities work. Was there any beef going on between Alpha? Was that Alpha Pi? KAYLEE's sorority? I can't remember the name, so pardon me. And Pi Beta. Could there have been sorority beef beside the frat beefs? Could Pi Beta be working with Sigma Chi? Just a question. Well, did all these people have mutual enemies and mutual friends? When I look into Eva's face, I remember that song. It's written all over your face. Her eyes says a lot. It could just be her expression, but I've noticed there's something that always concerns me when I watch this young woman's interviews. I'm not saying at all she was involved or has any part of this unlivings to do with. But I believe more like Eva knows something that she's hiding. She would have known exactly what was going on with the sorority beefs. She said she spent from the morning to night every day at 1122 King Road. I just believe she knows something.
I feel like I can breathe.
Can you share with the people tuning in and who no doubt will be watching this later as well, why were you being called to testify? And because if people haven't read the book, they may not know the story. What was it that you had that prosecutors thought was important to talk about at a trial?
So it could have been a number of things. I was subpoenaed by the defense, so I would have been having to answer the questions to Ann Taylor. Obviously, I probably would have been cross-examined by the prosecution side as well, but it was either because I was on scene that morning and Ann Taylor wanted to know what I saw that morning, what information was said at the time of the crime scene when we were all sitting outside to try and poke those holes, or she was calling me because of the relationship of my apartment and I can see directly 1122 King Road. That could have also been another factor. And then the third factor was when I got pulled into the police station the morning of November 13th, the police had asked me during my interview or investigation, was there anything that we need to know about that was out of the ordinary or scary within a certain time frame? And I was like, wait, yes. So on October 14th at about 1:03 in the morning, I have metal stairs that go up to my apartment. So the metal stairs are actually attached to my apartment. So you can hear footsteps and it shakes the entire apartment. So I heard these footsteps coming up my stairs. And I heard my doorknob, because it was a pretty finicky doorknob, and I actually got a deadbolt added to it right when I first moved in, a year prior to this incident happening. I heard my doorknob try and open, and it was locked. And I at first was a little freaked out, but then I realized it's Moscow. Moscow's safe. I've never had an issue or a fright or a feeling that Moscow was unsafe. So my initial reaction was, this is just somebody leaving a party. They're probably intoxicated. It was an accident. They might not know where they're going, or they were just trying to come into my apartment and say hi as an old friend. Then it got me started thinking after the incident happened, what if? It could have been the defendant himself. What if this? So I feel those could have been the three reasons that the defense did subpoena me and want me to testify at trial.
Okay, this is very interesting. Number one, Eva said there could be three reasons. Let's start with the first reason. Yes, Eva was out with Hunter Johnson, Emily, Jody, JM, Jody's boyfriend. All of them were sitting outside 1122 King Road, and she brought them a blanket or, something to keep themselves warm. So they all were sitting out for a couple of hours. I'm surprised that the police did not separate them to start with. None of these surviving roommates or Eva or Hunter, Emily should have all been separated so that they could give individual statements of what they witnessed. I don't even know why they were allowed to sit together to start with. Number two, the location of an apartment that she can see directly into 1122 King Road is interesting. I wonder which floor do you live in, Eva? Can you see the living room? Is it the second level you can see, or is it the first floor level, or is it the third floor level? Quite interesting. Because if Eva has friends who come and visit her And they could be looking and maybe looking into the girls' rooms or whatsoever. I'm not saying that's what happened. Or if there are sororities who are against the girls, they could be chilling with Eva and watching KAYLEE from Eva's window. So location for me is important. For Ann Taylor to have subpoenaed you, that could have been one of the two reasons. I agree. The third reason is the one that doesn't make sense. Eva said when the guy tried to open her door, or whoever tried to open her doorknob, she said, I didn't think there's anything to worry. This is Moscow. No, Eva. I disagree with you. And this is why. On the 12th of September 2022, 2 months before the quadruples happened, wasn't there a young man trying to poke people? Didn't he take out a sharp-edged weapon? Wasn't he threatening people on Paradise Street next to the university, not far from where you live? So are you trying to say that nothing has happened in Idaho, Moscow for you to have panicked? There was a person literally with a knife. That is number one. Number two, you should be concerned. Showalter is your neighbor. He lives in the same road as you. And there's been many complaints about him as harassing women. Why are you hiding all the juicy secrets? And I'm sure, Eva, you must have gone to the party in Sigma Chi fraternity. And even if you didn't go to the party, you're close to Emily. You're close to Zana. But Zana was unalived. May she rest in peace. Emily would have told you. Hunter would have told you. DM would have told you. They would have told you. Furthermore, there's a reason you were subpoenaed, because your view looks directly into 1122 King Road. So there's something not right here. I believe you were subpoenaed because you know more than you're saying. Inan Harsh was subpoenaed because he knew more than he was saying. And I don't see a lot of empathy whenever talks about KAYLEE for some reason. It's always Zana you seem to speak about. But KAYLEE is supposed to be your sorority sister. It's KAYLEE who's supposed to be part of the Greek life in your Greek lifestyle. And y'all chose Alpha Kappa, whatever it is called. Sorry, Alpha Kappa Lambda is the Banfield boys. I mean, whatever sorority you and KAYLEE were in, KAYLEE is your sorority sister, not Zana. So why did you fall out with KAYLEE? Was it complicated? Did you all feel like KAYLEE backstabbed you all? Did you all feel like something was not right with KAYLEE? Is that the reason KAYLEE had a stalker? Were y'all the stalkers? Could the sororities be the stalkers? Were y'all stalking poor KAYLEE around? And then we have Showalter who's there. Did y'all send Showalter maybe to stalk her and to scare her? Another thing, Eva, that I'm thinking about, the firework noise. If the neighbor heard it, and if Bethany Funk heard it, you would have heard it too. I believe Ann Taylor was subpoenaing you because you know more than you're saying. If you know something, say it. Give the correct justice for your former sorority sister. KAYLEE deserves it. Zana deserves it. I'm sure you were either partying with them that night, allegedly with Ethan and Zana, or either you could hear it from your house, your apartment, and you were just hiding behind the curtains and listening to all the yelling. And y'all didn't call the police. Whatever reason it was, I really believe that you knew exactly what was going on. I'm not going to play the whole interview, guys, but there's this little part that Vicky Ward asks Eva, are you happy how the outcome turned? And she said yes. She said, now we don't need to go back and forth to hearings. Now BK can't appeal, which is understandable. If he did it, God forbid, we don't want him appealing or coming out. But what I don't understand is, why are your people in Idaho, Moscow running away from a trial? Why are you running away from a trial? At least the trial would have brought forth all the evidences. But you all seem like you want to wrap up this case. She said it's convenient for her this way. I understand you live in California, you don't want to be traveling up and down. But don't you think the correct justice needs to be served? We know that Showalter, his door had dry red liquid. You must have heard the Banfield boys running down, and Saeed. But you know them, because you all used to party in 1122 King Road, in my opinion. So I'll summarize this by saying, guys, I believe the fraternities and sororities could have been involved. I've always said sororities are part of it. I've always said Greek lifestyle, the whole Greek lifestyle of them. They were doing some kind of rituals. I think the sororities were upset with KAYLEE. They must have been KAYLEE stalkers, for all we know, in my opinion. Let me know what you'll think. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'd like to thank each and every subscriber of mine, every viewer of mine, for all your support and kindness. May the 4 victims rest in peace.